Welcome back. Let's talk about those awesome things called field trips. Yes, field trips. Field trips can go south very quickly and get you into a lot of trouble and even potentially cost you a job if you're not careful. In no way should this checklist be considered all-inclusive. Make sure you consult your school district's policies and procedures as far as nuances for your field trips. This is a generalization of those things for our school district that I use. I've been teaching for over just about 27 years, and I've led close to 200 field trips. That sounds like a lot, but many of those were on Saturdays and either filming nature videos or meeting up with students for hikes. Now, if you're doing things like that outside of school hours, you still need to have the appropriate paperwork in place to protect yourself. That's very, very important. So let's talk about that paperwork and get to it. The first thing we're going to talk about is an approval form. This is a form you're going to fill out and give to your principal. Basically, on this form, they're going to ask you for the dates, times, venues, and educational purpose. So you're going to want to explain how this field trip fits into your state standards. The leave form. With a leave form, you're going to fill that out and give the school notice that you're not going to be there that day. Now, in the old days for me, the leave form automatically triggered a substitute. That's no longer true. Now uh, we book our substitutes online, so I have to fill out the leave form and the substitute form online if I want to sub. Now, because I was so used to the old way, I've done it so many times, I forgot that we had to fill the substitute request out online, and I nearly forgot to book a sub for last week's field trip. Fortunately, the other teacher attending the field trip reminded me of that. Um, List of students. This is important. Your list of students, there's a lot of reasons this is important. The most important part of this is that your school is probably going to determine if any of the students on the list have medical issues that need to be addressed. So when you turn in your list of students, you want to give the school a couple weeks to run those students against any medical issues. Also, don't assume that the school is going to do that, so I do it myself. I also look through all my emergency cards for my students to determine does anybody have any health issues, allergies, anything that might be an issue on the field trip. Obviously, the other thing with the list of students is it allows you to address attendance. You're going to turn this form in to whoever's in charge of attendance for your school so that they can field trip them and make sure those students are excused from class. Next, you're going to create a permission form. Our district has a permission form that the teacher fills a few things in. You're going to fill in the date, time, venue, educational purpose, but some of the other fields on there already on the field trip include medical issues for the student, physician, insurance, and there's an area for teachers to sign that they've been notified the student will be on a field trip and put their grade in there. So make copies of this and then distribute to the students to be filled out, have them return it. And this is very, very important. Take the forms with you. It does you no good to have the students' allergies, physician information, and insurance if something happens and you don't have the forms with you. I have a nice binder that I take them with me. So always take those permission forms with you. Very important. On this last field trip that we attended, there was a site release form. Since we were taking the students out in nature, the venue had their own release form that they wanted filled out, so I had to distribute those to the students and get them signed. And the site also had a photography release form. They wanted to take pictures of the students interacting with the wildlife on site, and so we had to get the photography release forms. Um, Also, this next weekend we're going to the Envirothon, and they have their own photograph release forms that need to be filled out. So again, want to get those done. Here's a big one, chaperones. The general rule of thumb in my district is one chaperone for every 10 students. Your district may be different. But with chaperones, it's important to give the school notice because they're going to run background checks on those chaperones, make sure that they can be around students. I've actually had parents denied chaperone status because they've had something in their background check that would not allow them to attend. So that's one good quick way to get yourself fired is by doing something as simple as grabbing a chaperone at the last minute and not having the school do a background check on them. Very, very important. Payment. I always talk about money is one quick way to get fired. It used to be in the old days, you would collect the cash, issue a receipt, and turn in the money at the end of the day every day. And if it was 2 weeks you were collecting money, every single day you had to go see the bookkeeper. Now, our district has it set up so that the students can pay electronically. I generate a QR code, they pay, I don't ever see or touch the money. And if we have to refund somebody the money, it's done very easily and quickly. So payment. Think about the students not attending the field trip. If you have students who are not going to be attending the field trip, what is the assignment you're going to give them? You probably want to give them something that the students on the field trip are either currently filling out themselves while they're on the field trip or something easily made up so that if you're grading it, just keep that in mind that you need to be equitable as far as assignments go. You might actually have the students who are not attending do something that hits the same state standard for those that the students who are attending the field trip are involved with. So give that a little bit of thought. Seems simple enough, but it's one of the places where I made an error early in my career. Taking attendance, getting on and off the bus. When I load students up onto the school bus, I take attendance to see who's attending the field trip. Sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 students absent, then I will know who I'm missing. When we offload, not a big deal, but when we reload from the venue, I will take attendance again to make sure we're not missing anybody. Um, Me personally, a lot of times I will stop off at a fast food restaurant, or better yet, my personal favorite, here's a pro tip for you, is if there's a local mall close by, they can handle an influx of a large number of students a lot more readily than a fast food restaurant. Um, in addition to, it also provides multiple options as far as dining for the students. The trick with this one is you want to take a couple chaperones and position them in the food court to make sure that the students stay in the food court and don't go wandering through the mall. That's gets a little bit tricky, but usually works out pretty well. Now, having said all of that, once I once we're done eating and I load them all up back onto the bus, I will take attendance again to make sure we've not left anybody. I cannot confirm or deny that a student was left at McDonald's many years ago. We had to, as soon as I noticed he was not on the bus, we had to turn around and go get him. So, long story short, he decided to slip off the bus when I was in the bathroom to get ice cream, and then when I got on the bus, somehow we missed him. Again, we remedied the issue, but it could have been bad had I not been keeping track of attendance. All right, make note of any medical issues. This is important. If any students are identified with medical issues, you need to be aware of it. Also, you need to find out what your school district's policy is on it. Do they bring the EpiPen? Do you bring the EpiPen? What is your policy? Make sure you're prepared for that. That could go south very quickly. This last field trip that we were on, I had a girl who was allergic to fire ants. Made sure that she had her EpiPen with her, and uh, was also made sure I was trained that I could use it if necessary. So same thing, we had a young lady with peanut allergies, and made sure that we were squared away with that. So find out what your school district's policy is on this and make sure you follow it. This is again a quick way to get yourself into a really bad situation if you don't dot your I's and cross your T's. Complete all necessary trainings. A couple of years ago, I had a student with diabetes, so I went through the diabetes training. And this year, I've got a couple who have EpiPens, so I made sure I went through the EpiPen training. Whenever you're having field trips like I do on a weekend, where they are voluntarily going on a hike with you or doing a beach cleanup or something, um, you're going to want to have them fill out permission forms. And on those permission forms, you're going to want to write on their students responsible for their own transportation. That way, the parents know the students are driving themselves or the parents are driving them, but the students are responsible for their own transportation. Overnight issues are entirely a different ballgame. I avoid overnight field trips if at all possible. It takes a really, really important event to get me to do a overnight field trip. The two I can think of is when my students testified before the House of Representatives and Senate for Florida regarding the state bird. We actually went up to Tallahassee, and when we went up to Tallahassee back in '98, I had a young lady who decided that since we were there, students on overnight field trips will quite frequently act out of character. This was an awesome young lady, but she decided since we were so close to all the universities, she was going to party that night. Saw her come out of her room all dressed up, looking like she was getting ready to party. And I said, I don't know where you think you're going. She's like, I'm going over to the universities to party. And I said, no, you're not. And she's like, what are you going to do to stop me? We're 4.5 hours from home. I said, I promise you, I will call your mother right now and tell her to come to Tallahassee. She won't get here till 1 in the morning, and I don't think she's going to be in a very good mood. But I will call her right now. I promise you that. Now, she backed down a little bit and went back to her room. But that could have been a challenging scenario to deal with. So, again, overnight field trips, students, 99% of students are great, but you'll get some who will act out of character. I've had multiple times we've participated in Envirothons at state competitions where we've had overnights with no issue. Now, obviously, you need to put the girls in their own hotel room, the guys in another hotel room, get the appropriate chaperones to stay with them. But overnight, if you can avoid overnight field trips, do so. They are challenging, and you need to give your school plenty of notice. Mm. Budget lots of extra time. This last field trip that we went on to view the scrub jays was a little bit of a challenge. The bus was somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes late, which chewed up all of the time I had. I'd budgeted 45 minutes for lunch at the mall. And so once they got there, we were 45 minutes behind everything, and they'd chewed up our lunchtime. And when I discussed it with the bus driver, there was no flexibility. She had places she needed to be as far as extending the field trip so the students could get lunch. So I had to be quick on my feet, and what we did is we decided to order pizzas in my classroom and have them delivered en route while we were returning to the school. So we were able to solve the problem, but always build in as much extra time as you can, because invariably there's always going to be things that throw you off of schedule. You've endured me long enough, so let me give you a really nice pro tip. My students are always very, very well received on these field trips with two little best practices that I implement. They get 2 points extra credit for every question they answer from a field trip guide. So when you get your field trip experts out there and they ask questions, my kids will actually are very participatory. They compete to answer questions because they know it's 2 points per question. And another thing you can do is give them 2 points for asking intelligent questions to their guides. And then a third thing that I do, because I do a lot of field trips that involve nature, is they get extra credit points for taking pictures of Florida native animals. So when we were out there, if there was a scrub jay's worth 25 points. Scrub jay goes flying by. It's like the paparazzi. Every kid has got their cell phone out taking pictures of the scrub jays. So it makes field trips a lot more fun for you, makes field trips a lot more fun for the students, and your field trip guides will love it. The fact that a lot of times when they are talking to kids, the kids kind of they're out of their element and shut down and are very quiet. Not my kids. My kids are all over it. They're like, and literally, when a kid gets a question right, they'll look at me and be like, "All right, 2 points, Cole," and they'll do a little basketball thing. So it's a lot of fun. Again, a best practice for you as far as field trips go. Well, hope this has helped. If you've learned anything that helped you out on the video, please click the like button. Think about subscribing. Have a great school year and keep being heroes. Thanks for everything you do out there, teachers.